Hi, welcome to another episode of ColdFusion. I panicked instead of thinking. That was the explanation given by an AI assistant after it had just deleted a company's entire database. It all started with a simple command. Jason Lemkin, founder of SaaStar and one of Silicon Valley's most respected voices, was testing out Replit's new AI assistant. His aim was to deploy an app update. He typed in a prompt and let the AI handle the rest. A few seconds later, the AI confidently confirmed that the task was complete, except it wasn't. Everything had been deleted instead. When asked what happened, the AI did not admit to the mistake. Instead, it generated fake data to cover it up, lying in the form of code. This wasn't a sci-fi story. This is a product of what's been called vibe coding. And it's a perfect metaphor for the moment we're living in, an era where software isn't written by typing, but by talking. As vibe coding grows in popularity, stories like this are growing in frequency. In short, vibe coding allows users to build software by simply describing it and letting AI do the actual coding. And while that may sound like a gimmick, it's also producing extraordinary results. People are launching apps faster than ever. Some are even building functional businesses. Entire industries are rethinking what learning to code even means. But of course, at the same time, others are calling it the continuation of the AI bubble, a short-lived illusion masking the deep instabilities and the inherent flaws of generative AI. In other words, AI code slop. So, what is vibe coding? And how did it create one of the most talked about unicorns in tech? And how do we separate hype from reality? Like with much of AI, there's multiple sides to this story. And a quick disclaimer, part of this video is sponsored by Lovable, but they had no input into the script or any of my opinions. Now, let's dive in.
You are watching ColdFusion TV.
To understand vibe coding, it's beneficial to look at what's been happening over the last few years. If you were a university student in the 2010s and were looking for career advice, you were most likely given learning to code as an option. Now in 2025, the need to know how to code is still vital, as we'll later see. But even so, things slowly started shifting when AI came into the picture. Back in 2021, GitHub Copilot quietly introduced developers to code that could complete itself. By 2022, ChatGPT and Codex were turning natural language into working concepts. But around 2023, something bigger started brewing. Developers realized they could push AI beyond small tasks. Instead of asking for a code function, they began asking for entire apps. That shift was the birth of vibe coding, and the term was formally introduced in February of 2025 by Andrej Karpathy in a public tweet. He framed it as a style of building where you, quote, fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists, end quote. In his description, he barely touched the keyboard, accepted AI suggestions without reading log changes, and treated errors as prompts to iterate, letting the code grow beyond direct oversight. In essence, he turned software creation into a conversation. You no longer had to speak the language of React hooks or API endpoints. You just described what you wanted. For example, build me a minimalist app that tracks sleep, has a dark mode, and syncs with Apple Health. Moments later, sometimes in minutes, a working prototype could emerge. Under the hood, vibe coding rides on the transformer architectures, the same lineage that powers ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. But by removing the friction of syntax, it added something crucial: confidence. That being said, much of this newfound confidence may be hollow. The AI-generated code may look fine and work okay at a quick glance, and without professional eyes to look at it, security risks and unforeseen problems could be lurking beneath. But the perks were still there. Suddenly, non-technical founders could ship MVPs, designers could test interfaces, students could build tools the moment inspiration struck, coding for the front end of applications, mocking up feature designs quickly, and then going over the code with humans at later stages, are use cases that work well. This shift unlocked a burst of creativity. Startups sprouted. Ideas that were once stuck in notebooks turned into apps overnight. Some fizzled, but one company didn't just use vibe coding, it embodied it. And in doing so, it became the fastest growing software startup in history. reaching $100 million in subscription revenue on an annualized basis in just 8 months. Their name was Lovable.
What stood out for Lovable? Why back it with such a significant sized Series A for European standards?
When we spent time with Anton and Fabian, the two co-founders, they were a really technical crew. So they had worked in research, they had worked in applied AI research, but they were building a tool that was applicable to the masses. So only 1% of the world's population can code. And so when they looked at their experience of building applied AI systems, they were to be able to take that and put it to a platform that they built called Lovable that allows them to offer to their users the ability to chat or text-based prompt to be able to create fully fledged applications.
Lovable began in Sweden in late 2023 with a pitch that was charmingly simple. Describe what you want and watch your functional software materialize. Lovable was gaining a fair bit of traction early on, but zoom out and the growth curve looks surreal. In its first year, Lovable reported passing $100 million in annualized revenue and crossing 10 million projects built on the platform. A $200 million Series A at a $1.8 billion valuation made it one of Europe's hottest AI stories. Then, within weeks, inbound offers reportedly valued the company at $4 billion. Hype? Maybe. But it's also a market signal. Investors think that the model, describe it, ship it, is more than a fad. Founder and CEO, Anton Osika, frames it as expanding the surface area of who gets to build. In interviews, he calls Lovable, quote, any language to build your software, end quote, arguing that creativity, not code literacy, should be the limiter. He cites use cases like a Brazilian educational startup spinning up an app and generating $3 million in 48 hours. The promise is speed as a business advantage. Don't talk about the idea for months. Ship it this week and iterate with real users. But none of that erases the questions. Can an AI assembly platform sustain healthy margins when it pays per call fees to model providers? Each request, whether it's to start a mock-up app or change the size of a button, costs money for these companies. And also, can reliability keep pace with ambition? Can an LLM scale with the increasing complexity of an app's growing demands? Even bullish investors acknowledge these open questions. But in this chapter of the story, the center of gravity is obvious. Lovable took vibe coding from a clever trick to an operating system for building. I'm going to show you how this works in more detail using Lovable as an example. Let's say I wanted to build a platform for ColdFusion viewers, and let's make it an app. So I typed in the following prompt. Can you make an app with the following? It should have a section for suggestions, where people can vote on new topics with a voting ranking system. A collaboration section where people can discuss, fact-check, and pull together information for scripts for upcoming videos, similar to a chat forum. A general chat page or post video discussion page with a plugin to Discord, and a place to watch videos. The main video page should be a scrollable feed of videos. On the top left-hand side is a menu that opens up to reveal the categories, collaboration, general chat, and voting. When clicked on, it takes you to each of the sections as described above. The theme is modern and minimalistic. I just left it at that and saw what happened. The results were interesting. I'd say it's really good for quick concepts. Initially, the designs were very bland, so I asked for some changes. First, I asked to make it more modern, and Lovable decided to add some nice little animations, which is pretty cool. Then I fed it an image as a guide. It understood and changed some elements accordingly, like rounded corners, for example. But it didn't change anything in a major way. And that's one thing I noticed. Once the initial layout has been set, it's hard to change things later, or at least to make the changes exactly what you're looking for. So here's my summary. Having an automatic mobile, tablet, and desktop view built into the website is a really good feature. Every page I asked for it to make was pre-filled with placeholder text, which is convenient. And basically everything was functional, and I was impressed with the overall understanding of the prompt. But, like most things with AI, it isn't perfect. The design was initially basic, and despite my efforts, it wouldn't jazz it up as much as I would have liked. And there were some issues with some of my instructions. For example, I wanted to change it to a dark mode, or change the color of the text, and it didn't seem to want to do that. I also tried more images of websites for inspiration, but the output was still similar to the first time. But that being said, it's still way more than I could ever do traditionally, given that I've never had a background in any of this. I also wanted to give it a fair shake, so I tried again with another prompt, this time with dark mode written from the get-go, and it did it right off the bat. But I still wasn't happy with the results. So one of my friends who's familiar with Lovable gave me a useful tip. If you import inspiration photos into ChatGPT, then describe the images in text form, and then refeed that text description back into Lovable, you can get better designs. It takes a bit of tweaking and fiddling with the prompts, but the final output does help with the problem of things looking a bit drab and generic. So, it's not perfect, but for a quick draft and for rapid prototyping and exploring ideas without any code, it does work. Lovable did reach out and decided to partner for this episode. They've had absolutely no input into the script, and they haven't even seen the video before release. But still, they're offering 20% off for ColdFusion viewers, so go to lovable.dev to start building today. Use my code ColdFusionYT20 for 20% off. The success of Lovable sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. Anysphere's Cursor, a next-generation code editor built around conversation and natural language collaboration, also exploded in popularity. Cursor was more of an autocomplete. It was Copilot with memory, understanding, and intuition. By 2025, Anysphere had reached $9 billion in valuation and claimed that its AI generated nearly 1 billion lines of code per day. In Israel, Base44, a no-code AI builder, was acquired by Wix within months of launching. Interestingly, its founders had used vibe coding to build vibe coding, a kind of inception moment for AI software. At Y Combinator, over a quarter of the 2025 batch reportedly had their MVPs built almost entirely through AI-assisted generation. In some cases, 95% of the codebase was machine-written. Big tech wasn't going to be left out either. Microsoft integrated Copilot everywhere into its ecosystem. Google added natural language code generation to Vertex AI. And soon, vibe coding wasn't niche anymore. It was normal. And it was leaking beyond startups. Freelancers used it to build client sites. Hobbyists built side projects. Socially, it revived that creative spirit that had been missing in tech for many years. Economically, it lowered the barriers for entry, but with more people being able to write whatever code they wanted, more slop code was created. And now we come to the reality. Amid all of this optimism, cracks have begun to show, because for all of its promise, vibe coding also comes with chaos. And the more people that adopted it, the louder the complaints grew. Let's start with the human experience. A software engineer named CJ posted a viral video earlier this year. In the video, he talks about how AI-assisted coding, once exciting, had become depressing.
I used to enjoy programming. Now, my days are typically spent going back and forth with an LLM and pretty often yelling at it or telling it that it's doing the wrong thing and getting mad that it didn't do what I asked it to begin with. And part of enjoying programming for me was enjoying the little wins, right? You would work really hard to make something, build something, or to fix a bug, or to figure something out. And once you figured it out, you'd have that little win, you'd get that dopamine hit, and you'd feel good about yourself and you could keep going. Now, I don't get that when I'm using LLMs to write code. Essentially, once it's figured something out, I don't feel like I did any work to get there, and then I'm just mad that it's doing the wrong thing, and then we go through this back and forth cycle, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all.
It's clear what he's saying. He missed the feeling of solving problems himself. That deep, satisfying moment when logic finally clicked. When the AI system does a lot of the coding for you, there just isn't the same level of satisfaction. I'm no longer a creator, he said, just a prompter. Now working with large language models felt random, inconsistent, and unrewarding. CJ described how the same prompt could produce different results every day.
Computers are logical systems. Programming languages are logical, formal logical languages. And that works really well with my brain. Now, when we're working with AI and LLMs, it's not predictable, right? You can use the exact same prompt and get a different response every single time. And I think this is where some of my frustration is coming from, because I am trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to develop workflows and be a prompt engineer or a context engineer, but doing the exact same things is producing different results. And honestly, that's not what I signed up for.
Models update silently, their behaviors change, and debugging becomes a guessing game. He called it, quote, breaking the logical foundation of programming. He also pushed back against what he called the skill issue myth, the idea that AI only fails because the users are using it incorrectly.
And you could chalk it up to skill issue, but just look at the evidence, right? So if you're chronically online like I am, and you're watching all of these tweets that come out from people and posts that are just talking about, oh, you have to write this specific prompt or use this specific workflow and it'll start working, and if you're not doing it, then it's a skill issue. I've tried it. I've tried so many different things. I found things that have sort of worked, but then they stopped working. Or I've been working with a specific model like GPT-4o or GPT-5, and all of a sudden I'm getting different outputs, right? Because I'm not in control of that LLM. It's a magic box hosted in the cloud that can change at any moment.
He said even with structured prompts and workflows, the AI often produced wrong or unstable code. And that unpredictability, he said, kills the joy. Others have echoed that sentiment. Developers began comparing AI code hype to a religion full of prompt gurus, preaching secret rituals on Twitter. Everybody promised productivity miracles, but behind the curtain, most tools were just wrappers on the same models: OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google, all with the same flaws underneath. One commenter summarized it best, quote, "It's all the same magic trick, just a different costume," end quote. For CJ, the burnout became too much. He took a month-long break from AI tools to rediscover the joy of writing code manually, and he said it was the happiest he'd been in years. But emotional burnout isn't the only problem. The tools themselves are volatile. Creators who test platforms describe the experience as incredible, but unstable.
You to build prototypes very fast, but they have two very big problems. Number one is that they are just not as powerful as the tools that developers use to code with AI. And number two is that they're very expensive. And this is what this video is about.
ChatGPT can do are impressive. However, a lot of the code that AI generates, it just sucks and it's outdated. And we know that things in the industry are constantly changing just overnight. And these AI models, they need time to learn new libraries and new syntax. And sometimes it's just flat out wrong. And I don't mean like just giving you inefficient code. I mean like the sky is yellow wrong.
They could build a production level app in hours, but a small tweak could break everything. These AI coding systems could tell a user that it's fixed a problem when asked, but in reality, the code wasn't even checked. Developers found themselves debugging AI's mistakes instead of their own. It's like a whole new skill set is needed to work with AI, as well as an understanding of when to use it and when not to use it. A developer friend of mine who's had a lot of experience with vibe coding tells me that the current state of AI coding systems, without any human input, can be overly verbose with unnecessary bits of code, and it can mix up different coding paradigms in a single project. And aside from all of this, there's the issue of accuracy. Vibe coding tools often hallucinate. They'll invent APIs, create phantom endpoints, or generate functions that don't even exist. There are some workarounds for experienced coders, and these problems may be fine for a toy project, but in a production environment, it's a nightmare. We already saw this at the introduction of this video. One team discovered that their AI-generated multiplayer game used Python's Pickle module for networking, which effectively opened the door to remote code execution attacks. It was a working app until someone realized that anyone could run the code on anyone else's machine. It's like building a house overnight and finding out later that you forgot the foundation. But the criticisms go deeper. Security experts warn that vibe coding encourages copy and paste culture, where developers don't understand what's running on their servers. Educators say that beginners risk skipping the fundamentals entirely. Another app called T made headlines earlier this year as 1.1 million personal messages and 72,000 images were leaked without any hacking required because it was all unencrypted. The poor security was due to the app largely being built with vibe coding. Even within the AI community, some engineers quietly admit that prompt engineering is a band-aid, not a discipline. But even the skeptics do acknowledge the power. As one neurodiverse developer wrote after building and shipping an AI-generated app, quote, "Vibe coding gave me dopamine highs, but it can't replace human oversight," end quote. And that's the paradox. Vibe coding is both miraculous and maddening. A tool that can give you superpowers and headaches at the same time. It's like handing everyone a Ferrari or Formula One car without teaching them how to drive. However, there are some vibe coders that do insist that top-level developers will smartly use AI coding strictly as a tool. they'll do their due diligence, check what the AI code does carefully, and reap the rewards of increased output. Meanwhile, those with little coding who stumble into vibe coding will just produce slop and have massive issues. So where does that leave us? In some ways, the absolute flood into vibe coding could be putting the cart before the horse. We're moving a bit too fast with our promises versus the reality of the technology in 2025. Like a lot of mission-critical AI systems these days, it works most of the time, but it has serious limitations, comes with unique risks, and requires expert oversight. If you're skilled in coding and know what to look for to fix any issues that can arise, it can make your life easier in small ways. But conversely, if you have no idea how to read or write code, yet expect vibe coding to do everything for you with a few prompts with no issues, we're not there yet, especially for more complex tasks. For simpler apps and web pages, like a landing page, or store apps, vibe coding software like Lovable could work well. But for anything more complex, vibe coding still has issues for those who don't know how to code. So to summarize, I'm not saying that vibe coding is all bad. It's here to stay, and for those who know what they're doing, in specific use cases, it can be very helpful. Success depends on how the technology is used. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the whole way through this episode. It really does mean a lot, and so does your support over all the years. It's really amazing. Otherwise, that's about it from me. If you want to see something technology related, I've got another video that I'll leave right here. And yeah, that's it. My name's Dagogo, I've been ColdFusion, and I'll catch you again soon for the next episode. Cheers guys.
ColdFusion. It's new thinking.